1939. World War II is raging and the US military desperately needs a strange, silvery metal. One that's crucial for strengthening weapons, making bullet casings, and even producing fire-resistant materials. That metal? Antimony. Fast forward to today and it turns out not much has changed. Antimony is still critical for defense, but now it's also used in high-tech batteries, semiconductors, and even renewable energy. Just one problem, the US doesn't mine a single ton of it anymore. Instead, we rely almost entirely on China and Russia, countries that aren't exactly known for being reliable business partners. So what happens if the US can't get its hands on this stuff? More importantly, who's stepping up to fix this massive supply chain problem? Well, it turns out there's a company in Alaska that might just have the answer. And they're not just sitting on a critical antimony deposit, they also have a multi-million ounce gold resource. Gold is skyrocketing, the US is desperate for antimony, and this company is sitting right at the intersection of both. Sound interesting? Yeah, I thought so. Let's talk about it. You ever noticed how, no matter what's happening in the world, gold always seems to find a way back into the spotlight? It's been the ultimate symbol of wealth for thousands of years. Ancient empires fought wars over it, central banks hoard it, and right now, investors can't seem to get enough of it. Why? Because when the economy looks shaky, people rush to gold. It's a safe haven, a way to protect wealth when inflation is high, markets are volatile, and things start feeling uncertain. And guess what? That's exactly where we are today. As we speak, gold has just hit a new record high at more than $3,000 per ounce. The biggest gold miners, companies like Barrick Gold and Newmont, should be raking in cash, right? But they're actually struggling. Why? Because finding new gold deposits is harder than ever. The big players are dealing with rising costs, declining production, and political headaches in places like Africa and South America. And here's where things get interesting. Market isn't rewarding these big companies. It's starting to look for new opportunities elsewhere. That's where small, up-and-coming miners, the ones with huge untapped resources, start to get very, very interesting. But while gold is getting all the headlines, it isn't the only metal in high demand. In fact, there's another one that's even more critical, and almost no one is paying attention to it. Earlier we talked about how the US needs antimony for defense, but here's what's even crazier. Our entire modern world runs on this stuff. It's in your phone, it's in your car, it's even in the solar panels powering your neighbor's house. And right now, it's one of the most expensive and hard to get metals on the planet. And here's the kicker. The US doesn't produce any of it. Zero. Instead, we import almost all of it from China and Russia. And just a few months ago, China cut off exports. That sent prices soaring, up 250% in a single year. And now, the US government is scrambling to secure its own supply. Alright, so here's the big question. Is there anyone actually doing something about this? Because antimony is a national security emergency, and gold? Well, right now the world is scrambling for it as a safe haven. Turns out there's a company sitting right on top of both, and almost no one is talking about them yet. Meet Nova Minerals, NVA on the Nasdaq, a small but fast-moving mining company in Alaska home to some of the richest gold deposits in North America. But this isn't just any gold mine. Nova is developing the Estelle Project, a massive 514 square kilometer district with a multi-million ounce gold resource. And right alongside that, a potentially large, undeveloped antimony deposit. If that sounds like a gold rush and a national security play wrapped into one, well, that's because it is. Let's start with the gold. The Estelle Project is located in Alaska's Tintina Gold Belt, the same region that produced 220 million ounces of gold for major players like Barrick Gold and Kinross. And Nova isn't just sitting on gold, it's actively moving toward production. Right now they're focused on two massive gold deposits. Corbel, a bulk tonnage deposit with 2.7 million ounces of in-pit gold ideal for large-scale mining, and RPM, a high-grade deposit where recent drilling hit 132 meters at 10.1 grams per ton, which is absolutely massive by industry standards. To put that in perspective, some of the biggest gold mines in the world operate on grades as low as 0.3 grams per ton. So when Nova finds 10 grams per ton over 132 meters, that's the kind of stuff that turns a small mining company into a serious player. But here's the kicker. Remember antimony? The critical mineral the US doesn't produce but desperately needs? Nova's Estelle Project isn't just sitting on gold, it's sitting on a potentially significant undeveloped antimony deposit. Their Stibian prospect contains massive outcroppings of stibnite, the main ore for antimony, with concentrations as high as 60%. And here's where things get really interesting. Nova is in active discussions with the US Department of Defense about fast-tracking antimony production. Why? Because under the Strategic and Critical Materials Stockpiling Act, the government is legally allowed to fund domestic mining projects for national security reasons. So let's recap. Gold prices are skyrocketing, the US is scrambling to secure antimony, Nova Minerals is sitting on both, right in America's backyard. And yet, this company's trading at a fraction of what its assets are worth. And if the US government steps in to help develop the antimony project, that could be a game changer. So, we've covered gold, we've covered antimony, we've covered why Nova Minerals might be sitting on one of the most overlooked resource plays in the market today. See, when most people hear about a mining company, they assume it's all about one or two deposits. Find some gold, mine it, sell it. But Nova's Estelle Project? It's massive. It covers 514 square kilometers, about twice the size of Washington, D.C. And here's the wild part, Nova has only scratched the surface. Right now, they've drilled and confirmed a multi-million ounce gold resource. But across this entire district, there are over 20 other untested prospects with geological features that could hold even more gold, antimony, silver, and copper. So if you think Nova is just a small gold miner, think again. They're sitting on an entire mineral district that could keep growing for decades. Now let's say Nova only has what they've already confirmed. The gold, the antimony, the high-grade RPM deposit. Even at today's numbers, they're already undervalued compared to their peers. But what if they find another high-grade deposit somewhere in that 514 square kilometer district? What if they get government backing to fast-track antimony production? What if this stock isn't just undervalued, but actually one of the biggest resource opportunities in North America? See, that's the thing about small-cap miners. If they hit another major discovery, they could shoot to the moon overnight. And the biggest question isn't if Nova's Estelle Project has more to offer, it's how much more. Because at the end of the day, mining stocks don't just move on what they have today, they move on what they could have tomorrow. And with gold, antimony, and a district-scale discovery potential, Nova Minerals might just be getting started. So let's take a step back for a second. We started this video with a simple question. Can one small company solve two of the biggest supply chain challenges in the world? The global rush for gold and the US scramble for antimony. After looking at Nova Minerals, I think it's safe to say they're in a very interesting position. They're sitting on a massive gold deposit just as prices are soaring. They could become a key supplier of antimony at a time when the US literally has no domestic production. And on top of all of that, they've barely scratched the surface of their district's full potential. It's rare to see this many factors line up at once for a company still flying under the radar. But now, I want to hear from you. Do you think gold still has room to run higher? Will the US actually take action to secure its own antimony supply? And most importantly, could Nova Minerals be one of the biggest overlooked resource plays in the market today? A decade from now, people will look back at this moment, when gold was surging, antimony was in crisis, and Nova Minerals was still flying under the radar. And they'll either say, I saw it coming, or I wish I had paid attention. Drop a comment below and let me know your take, because trust me, this is a conversation worth having. Now obviously, this isn't financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. But if this kind of deep dive into hidden opportunities is something you want more of, make sure to hit that like button so we know to keep making videos like this. And hey, if you're into underrated, under the radar companies that could be on the verge of something big, you're in the right place. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and stick around. Because trust me, this isn't the last game-changing opportunity we're going to talk about.